So for this video tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to make this beautiful heart granny square. And it's about an 8 by 8 granny square. And you can see how I started with the heart pattern, and then I show how I turned it into a granny square. So then you can finish and make it as large as you want. So you could even make a smaller square, and the smaller square on the inside would be about 7 inches. So that darker color that you see on the inner is about 7 inches by 7 inches. And so this, with the lighter color on this 8 by 8 inches, and then if you added another round, it would be 9 by 9 inch square. So for this square that I finished, I used a lighter color and then went to a darker color. So on video tutorial, I'm going to start with this darker color and then go with the lighter color. And this is what they look like when you're all finished. This is with the lighter color, starting with the lighter color and then starting with the darker color. And they turn out really beautiful. And then on the back, if you bury your loose yarn ends, you can see that it turns out just as gorgeous on the back. You can't see any loose yarn ends. So there are a lot of fun things that you can do with these little granny squares. You can make blankets out of them when you attach them together, so you can combine granny squares to make a larger blanket. The other thing that you can do, especially if you use cotton, a lot of people like to use cotton, is you can put warm pots on top or hot pots on top of it so you don't damage your pretty granite or whatever counter that you have, kitchen counter or table. They're great for parties, you know, for setting party bowls on top of. Also, you can make bags, so you can take and put the two granny squares together to make a bag. You would want to, of course, make sure that the right sides are facing for the bag. So there's so many things that you can do with granny squares. I just love making them, and I'm so happy that I can add this addition to my granny square collection. So please hit like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I really appreciate it. Thank you. For this video tutorial, you're going to need a 6.5 millimeter crochet hook, as well as a tapestry needle or darning needle, and a pair of scissors. And then also you're going to need some stitch markers. You're going to need about 4 stitch markers. So this is just my stitch mark holder I'm just showing you, and then I have my collection of stitch markers. So you're going to need about 4 stitch markers. If you don't have stitch markers, you can use a loose yarn end. So you just use one of your scraps of yarn, and then you can use that instead if you wanted to. So for this video tutorial, I'm introducing a new style of yarn, and the color that I chose is by Yarnbee, and it's Fresh Haven Pink. And then here's some more information about this yarn for those of you who are using different styles of yarn. This color is pink, and it is made of 100% tencel yarn. So supposedly tencel styled yarn is produced by environmentally responsible processes from sustainably sourced natural raw materials like wood. I really love the feel of this yarn. I don't know if you can tell from the video, but it's actually kind of sleek and shiny, kind of similar to Caron Simply Soft yarn style of yarn, except Caron Simply Soft is made from petroleum products or acrylic. And then this is compared to the 100% cotton yarn that I love. So this is the alternate color that I chose, and this is by I Love This Cotton. The color is coral. And then here's some more information about this yarn, and this one's 100% cotton, like I said. And there is a difference. You could feel cotton tends to be a little bit of a rougher texture, and this tencel style fiber is actually sleek and soft. Now, one thing I want to remind you is if you use a different style of yarn or a different sized hook, then your finished granny square may turn out a different size also. So you can start with whichever color that you want. I'm starting with my darker color because I want to show you what it looks like when you start with the lighter color and then what it would look like if you started with the darker color. So now you're just going to take your yarn and we're going to start with a magic circle. So you're going to drape the yarn across your 4 fingers, use your thumb to stabilize, wrap the yarn around your 2 middle fingers, and then hold it in place with your pinky and your thumb. Then you're going to take your crochet hook, you're going to go under those 2 loops around the middle fingers, you're going to bring up a loop, then you're going to yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through the loop for a slip knot. Go ahead and cinch that knot a little bit down. Then go under those 2 loops, bring up a loop, yarn over, go through both loops for a single crochet. Then you're going to chain 2. 1, 2. And then that counts as your first double crochet for the magic circle. Now we're going to make 4 treble crochet. So you're going to yarn over twice. You're going to go into the magic circle. You're going to bring up a loop. Now you have 4 loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over, turn the hook upside down, go through 2 loops. You have 3 loops remaining. Yarn over, turn the hook upside down and go through 2 loops. You have 2 loops remaining. Yarn over, turn the hook upside down and go through 2 loops to complete a treble crochet. So now we're going to make 3 more treble crochet into the magic circle. Yarn over twice. Go into the magic circle, bring up a loop, yarn over, turn the hook upside down and go through 2, 3 loops remaining, yarn over, turn the hook upside down, go through 2, 2 loops remaining, yarn over, turn the hook upside down and go through 2. So we just completed our second treble. So I'm going to make 2 more treble crochet into the magic circle. Now we're going to make 4 double crochet into the magic circle. So you just yarn over, go into the magic circle, bring up a loop, and make 4 double crochet. So I'll make the first one. I have 3 loops on the hook. I'm going to go through 2 loops, and then the 2 remaining loops to complete a double crochet. There's my second double crochet. So for the double crochet, you just yarn over once. Go into the circle, bring up a loop, go through 2, and then go through 2. So that's 3 double crochet. I'm going to make 1 more. And what's nice about the magic circle also is you can scoot the stitches over. So you can just kind of move them over. Now we're going to make 1 treble crochet into the magic circle. So you just yarn over twice, go into the magic circle, bring up a loop, complete your treble crochet. Then you're going to make 4 double crochet into the magic circle. Then you're going to make 4 treble crochet into the magic circle. Then for the last stitch, you're going to make a double crochet, so 1 double crochet. Now we're going to close the magic circle. So you're going to take your forefinger and your thumb, you're going to hold the base of all of your stitches, just like this. Then you have these 2 loops on the opposite side. You're going to pull on one to close the magic circle. If it doesn't close, let go and pull on the other one, but this one's closing. Then you take the loose yarn end. So grab that loose yarn end and pull on that. You can see how it closes up the circle nicely. Now, if you don't get it completely closed, don't worry at this time. Just close it as much as you can. You can see how it forms a heart. Now you can make a slip stitch into that first single crochet that you made in the magic circle. So just kind of take your crochet hook. See if I can get in there. And then just go right into that stitch. And then make a slip stitch. So you yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and then go through both loops on the hook for a slip stitch. Now you can take and turn the work over and then kind of pull on that loose yarn end to close up the center of the magic circle. So the reason why it's a magic circle is because you can close it like that. It's a really nice technique, which is why I love to use it. So now we're going to change colors. So you're going to bring in your alternate color choice. And for mine, I'm using this pastel pink tinsel style of yarn. And then you just bring up a loop. Then take and lay your work flat, grab the other colored yarn, and then just tie a knot. Make sure you leave enough of a loose yarn end for burying into your work. I'm going to tie one more knot here. And now we're ready for our next round. The first thing that I did was just put a stitch marker into that treble crochet stitch at the bottom of the heart. So the very bottom of the heart, I placed a stitch marker. So you can just place a yarn, one of your scraps of yarn in that stitch if you don't have a stitch marker. Then to start this round, you're going to make a chain of 1. So just yarn over, turn the hook upside down and go through the loop for 1. Then you're going to make a double crochet into the first stitch. So here's your first stitch for the round. So you just yarn over and then go into that stitch for a double crochet. Then you're going to chain 1. And then the other thing that you can do, I prefer not to bring the yarn up, the alternate color up, because it leaves a line. I'd rather just bury the loose yarn end. So I'm going to go ahead and trim my alternate color. Make sure you leave a loose yarn end for burying. That way I can move my alternate color out of the way until I'm ready for it. So now, after your double crochet, you're going to chain 1. Make sure I didn't chain 1 already. I think I did. So there's a double crochet, then you chain 1, and then make a double crochet into the next stitch. So you just yarn over, go into the next stitch, and then make your double crochet. And you're going to repeat this pattern all the way to the stitch marker. So you're going to chain 1, and then double crochet into the next stitch. So go ahead, keep repeating this pattern. Chain 1, double crochet into the next stitch until you get to your stitch marker, and then come back. So now this is how my work looks, and I've reached the stitch marker. So I finished my double crochet. I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to make a treble crochet into the stitch with the stitch marker. So you yarn over twice, go into the same stitch as the stitch marker, bring up a loop, and then complete your treble crochet. And then you can go ahead and remove your stitch marker. And then you're going to chain 1 again, and then make a double crochet into the next stitch. Then you're just going to resume your pattern of chain 1 and then double crochet into the next stitch, and repeat that until you get back to where you started. So chain 1, double crochet into the next stitch, and repeat that pattern all the way back to the beginning. So now after you finish your double crochet in the last stitch, go ahead and make one more chain 1, and then slip stitch into the base or the center of the alternate color heart. So go ahead and go into there and make a slip stitch. So you just yarn over and then pull the yarn through both loops on your hook to complete a slip stitch. And now we're ready to move up to the next round. So for the next round, I'm going to change colors again. So I'm going to bring up a loop with my alternate color. So I'm just going to turn my work over and then take the alternate color, previous color, and then just tie a knot. Then I'm going to go ahead and trim the previous colored yarn and get that out of the way. Make sure you leave enough for a loose yarn end. We're going to bury our loose yarn ends. So you will have a couple loose yarn ends to bury in the beginning, but once we start the granny square portion, you won't have as many of the loose yarn ends. So it's just for the initial design. So now we're going to start our next round. So for this next round, you're going to slip stitch into that first stitch. So go into that first stitch right before the chain 1 space. So you're going to yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and bring the yarn through both loops on the hook for a slip stitch. Then you're going to chain 3, and then that chain 3 counts as your first double crochet for this round. Then you're going to make 2 double crochet into the chain 1 space. So you yarn over, go into the chain 1 space with your crochet hook, bring up a loop, and make a double crochet. So you're going to make 2 double crochet into the same space. Then you're going to make a double crochet into the next stitch. And then 2 double crochet into the chain 1 space. It looks like I forgot my chain 1 here. It's okay. Just make 2 double crochet into that space. That should have been a chain 1 space. So sometimes I can get away with not frogging. And frogging means when you have to undo your work. So sometimes there's no option but to frog. So now I'm going to make a double crochet into the next stitch. And then 2 double crochet into the next chain 1 space. And then I'm going to just keep repeating this pattern all the way until I reach the bottom. So you may want to put a stitch marker into the bottom stitch again. So here is my treble at the bottom, and I'm just going to stick a stitch marker in there. And then I'm just going to resume, making 1 double crochet into the previous row's double crochet, and then 2 double crochet into the chain 1 space. And then you're going to repeat that all the way until you get to your stitch marker. 1 double crochet into the next stitch, and then 2 double crochet into the chain 1 space. So go ahead, keep repeating that pattern all the way to the stitch marker, and then come back. So now I've made it to my stitch marker. I finished my last 2 double crochet into the chain 1 space. So you should have a total of 24 stitches up to this point, including that first chain 3 that we made. So now you've reached your stitch marker. You can go ahead and chain 1 and then treble crochet into the stitch with the stitch marker. So go ahead and remove that stitch marker. See for me. Then you can make a treble crochet into that stitch, then you're going to chain 1 again, and then make 2 double crochet into that chain 1 space. Then you just resume 1 double crochet into the next stitch, and then 2 double crochet into the chain 1 space, and then you just keep repeating that pattern all the way back to where you started. So now I'm back to the beginning of where I started, and you should have ended with the 49th stitch. So make sure that you count, which would be 24 here, and then you have your 1 treble at the bottom, and then 24 stitches on the opposite side. So when you finish your last double crochet, then you can make a slip stitch into the center of the heart. So skip over anything that appears to be stitches. Go right into the center of the heart, bring up a loop, and then bring it through both loops on the hook for a slip stitch to complete the round. Now you're ready to join your alternate color. Go ahead and bring up a loop, turn your work over, and then tie a knot with the alternate color. And then you can trim your previous color. Make sure you leave enough of a loose yarn end again for burying into your work. And now we're ready. My yarn got tangled. There we go. Now we're ready to crochet with our alternate color. So to start this round, you're going to make a chain of 4. So you're going to yarn over, bring the yarn through the loop for 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so now we have a very important step as we turn our heart into a granny square. So now what we're going to do is we're going to make our corners. So you want 4 corners, and I usually just place my stitch marker into where I'm going to be making my corner. Now again, if you don't have stitch markers, you can just use a loose yarn end and then stick it into the stitch. So what's important at this point is you want all of your sides to be the same size. So for mine, I'm going to have 11 stitches across the top and 11 stitches across the bottom and 11 stitches on both sides. So I'm going to give you the stitch where I placed my stitch counts so you can see where I placed mine. So here is our initial treble or chain 4, which represents our treble for this round. And we're going to be making a double crochet into this stitch. So there's 1 stitch, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you place your stitch marker. Then just count 11 stitches. So stitch marker, and then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then you place your stitch marker into the next stitch. And then for mine, I have, and we're not going to be making a double crochet into all of these stitches. We're going to be skipping the chain 1s here because we want the bottom to have 11 stitches. So I'm just going to show you. So here you can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's the chain 1 stitch and then the treble. So I counted the next stitch is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I have the chain 1, treble, chain 1, and then I'm going to count on this side. Make sure I have the right stitch. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I placed my stitch marker into that stitch. So again, here's the treble. Let me double check this. Treble, chain 1, and then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I placed my stitch marker. Then I counted 11 again. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then I have stitch marker in the next one. And then I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm probably going to skip this last one because remember you want 11 across the top too. So that's how I placed my stitch markers. And then we're going to make sure as we crochet this next round that we end up, and you're going to count this first treble as a stitch. So it's going to count as a stitch for the top. The rest are going to be double crochets in the stitch, and you want to have the total stitch count across the top to be 11, not counting your corners. So your corners are going to go into where your stitch markers are. Then on each side you should have 11 free stitches so that you have 11 double crochet on this side and 11 double crochet on this side. And then the stitch markers at the bottom are each going to have their corner stitches, and then you're going to make sure that you finish with 11 double crochet on the bottom. So if you need to skip whatever stitches you need to skip, I'm going to be skipping around the bottom here, and I'll show you as I make this round. But you need to end up with 11 stitches for the bottom too. So now we're ready. After you place your stitch markers, we're ready to make our double crochet and corner stitches. So now I'm going to make a double crochet into the top stitch of that first stitch in the round from the previous round. And then I'm just going to make a double crochet in each stitch. until I get to the first stitch marker. I really like this yarn. It's very sleek. It has a nice texture to it. So now I made it to the first stitch marker. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that stitch marker in the next stitch. And then I'm going to make my corner stitch. So to make a corner stitch, you're going to make 3 double crochet into that next corner stitch. So 3 double crochet into the same stitch. Now you're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And then you're going to make 3 more double crochet into the same stitch to complete a corner. So I just completed a corner, and this is what it looks like. 3 double crochet, chain 3, 3 double crochet into the same stitch. Then you're ready to make a double crochet into the next stitch, and you should have 1 double crochet into each of the next total of 11 stitches. So you'll have 11 double crochet on this side between the corner stitches. So go ahead, finish 1 double crochet into a total of 11 stitches on this side. So now I have my corner stitch, and then I have 1 double crochet into 11 stitches, and that brings me to my next stitch marker for the next corner stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that stitch marker, and then I'm going to make a corner stitch into that next stitch. So that means you're going to make 3 double crochet into the same stitch, then you're going to chain 3, and then 3 more double crochet into the same stitch. To complete your next corner stitch. So now for the bottom, you need 5 double crochet on this side, 1 double crochet into the end stitch, and then 5 double crochet before you make your next stitch, corner stitch. So you need to skip stitches around here to make that happen. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to do, because you don't want to put 1 double crochet in every stitch because you're going to have too many stitches for this bottom row. So for mine, I'm going to make sure I have 5. I'm going to go into the next one for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I know I have 5 on this side. Then I'm going to go right into the middle. So here's the middle stitch. So I'm going to skip any stitches, go into that middle stitch for my 6th. And then I know I need 5 on this side before my corner stitch. So here's my corner stitch. I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to skip 2. And then make 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. and that gives me 11 for the bottom row. Then you can remove your stitch marker to make your corner stitch. So remember, corner stitch is 3 double crochet in the same stitch. Then you chain 3, and then 3 more double crochet into the same stitch. And then you just completed your third corner. Then you're ready to make 1 double crochet into the next 11 stitches, which will bring you to your next corner stitch. So go ahead, finish your next 1 double crochet into the next 11 stitches for the other side of the square. Then when you reach your next corner stitch, go ahead and just remove the stitch marker, and then you're going to make your corner stitch into the next stitch. So again, the corner stitch, you make 3 double crochet, then you chain 3, and then make 3 more double crochet into the same stitch. And then that brings you to the top row. And then for the top row, you need to make sure that you only have 11 stitches for the top row. So far for the top row, don't count your corner stitch. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let me double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I need 4 more. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So you make a double crochet into the next 4, or however many you need to finish with 11 stitches for the top row. Then you can skip over, this looks like a stitch right here, you can skip that and then just make a slip stitch into the top stitch of your first chain 4 that you made. So just go right into that top stitch. So here is your other stitch right here. Let me just double check my top stitch. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So right here. Go right into that top stitch. And then you're going to make a slip stitch. So you just yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and bring the yarn through both loops for a slip stitch. And then that joins that round. And then you have your square, which has 11 stitches here, the top, the bottom, and the left and right side of your square. And then we're ready to move up to the next round, which will be the start of the granny square. So now you can chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and that counts as your first double crochet for this next round. Then you're going to make a double crochet into the next stitch, and a double crochet into the next stitch. Then you chain 1, skip a stitch, and then make 1 double crochet into the next 3 stitches. And then that should bring you to your corner stitch. So you have your corner stitch. Go ahead and chain 1. Skip those first 3 double crochet from the corner stitch and make 3 double crochet into the chain 3 space of the corner stitch. So there's 1, 2, 3. So you can see how I did that to start. Then you're going to chain 3 and then make 3 more double crochet into the same space, same chain 3 space. Then you're going to chain 1, skip the 3 double crochet of the chain 3 space from the previous round, go into that next double crochet stitch and make a double crochet. Then you're going to make a double crochet into the next 2 stitches. Then you're going to chain 1, skip the next stitch and make a double crochet into the next 3 stitches. Chain 1, skip the next stitch and then make 1 double crochet into the next 3 stitches. Then you're going to chain 1 again, and then you're going to skip the 3 double crochet from the next corner stitch and make 3 double crochet into the chain 3 space of the previous round's chain 3 space, and then make a corner. So now you chain 3 and then 3 double crochet into the same chain 3 space, and you're just going to keep repeating this all the way around back to where you started. So you can see how you're creating your granny square round. So you chain 1, skip over the 3 double crochet from the previous round's corner stitch, and then make a double crochet into that first double crochet along either the side, the bottom, or the top. And then a double crochet into the next stitch, double crochet into the 3rd stitch, chain 1, skip a stitch, double crochet into the next 3, and repeat. So go ahead, finish this round, and then come back. So now when you reach where you started, you can chain 1. I think I already made a chain 1. Let me double check. Make sure you chain 1, skip a stitch, and then make a slip stitch into the top stitch of that first chain 3 that you made. So you just yarn over, turn the hook upside down, bring the yarn through both loops on your hook, and then you can finish off. So to finish off, you just yarn over and then turn the hook upside down and then bring the yarn through the loop. We're not going to finish off yet. Now you would finish off if this was the size that you wanted for your granny square. So I'm going to show you how, if you want to just keep continuing and adding more rounds or change colors. You can change colors at any point. What you do now is, if you want to continue on, you make a slip stitch into the next stitch. So you yarn over and then bring the yarn through both loops, and then slip stitch into the next stitch, and then slip stitch into the chain one space. And then that's where you join your new color. So you just bring up your new color and then you can tie a knot with the previous colored yarn. Then you can cut your previous colored yarn. I already cut mine. Then you can take and chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to bury my loose yarn ends as I crochet. So I'm going to make 2 more double crochet into this chain 1 space. So I yarn over, go into this chain 1 space, go behind my loose yarn ends, bring up a loop, make my double crochet, and then I'm going to make 1 more double crochet into the same space. And now I'm just going to trim my loose yarn ends. So now we're ready for this round. Then you just make a chain of 1 and then 3 double crochet into the next chain 1 space. So for those of you that have made granny squares before, you already recognize what to do now. But for those that have never made a granny square before, I'm going to show you the standard rounds that you would be making. So now we're at the corner space. I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to make my corner stitch. So I'm going to make 3 double crochet into the chain 3 space. Then I'm going to chain 3, and then make 3 more double crochet into the same chain 3 space. Then I'm going to chain 1, and then into the next chain 1 space I'm going to make 3 double crochet into the same space. Then I'm going to chain 1, 3 double crochet into the next chain 1 space. Then I'm going to chain 1 and keep repeating. So it's that simple. Chain 1, go into the chain 1 space, chain 1, and then that brings me to my corner space. So you're going to make your corner, 3 double crochet into the chain 3 space, chain 3, and then 3 double crochet into the same chain 3 space. And then you just repeat all the way around. So now I'm going to chain 1, go into the chain 1 space and make 3 double crochet. All the way back around to where I first started. And this is how it's looking. Then when you get back to where you started, don't forget your chain 1 after you finish your 3 double crochet. Then just take and slip stitch into the top stitch of that first chain 3 that you made. So you just yarn over and then just pull the yarn through both loops on the hook. I'll do that again. Then, after you finish making your slip stitch, then you can finish off, just yarn over, and then just pull enough yarn through to bury into your work. And then you have your beautiful heart granny square. Turned out gorgeous. So now you just want to turn your work over, and then you just take your loose yarn ends, put them onto your tapestry needle, and then you just want to weave them through the wrong side of the work. And I usually try to stick with the same colors. And I like to weave it through a couple of times just to make sure it's nice and buried and won't come undone. Then you can take and then just trim the loose yarn end. So then I'm going to go towards the center too, and then you just take each of the loose yarn ends and you just bury them on the wrong side, making sure that you don't mess up the design on the front of the granny square. So go ahead, bury any loose yarn ends.